بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وبارك على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد حياكم الله جميعا وبارك الله فيكم. Before we begin, the brothers from the masjid, Jazakumullah khair, they've provided some of these notebooks. I believe we took some at the beginning. I don't know if it was the beginning of this book or beginning of Quad al-Arba, but we handed out some of these notebooks at the beginning. If anyone wants to take one for themselves now, then they're free to do so, inshallah. Brothers, alhamdulillah, take one, inshallah. So, essentially, in the last lesson we were discussing the principle of al-Walāʻ wal-Barāʼ, yani loving and hating for the sake of Allah, and association or disassociation for the sake of Allah. And this is a foundation from the foundation of Islam and the foundation of the Muslimin, and from the foundation of al-Sunnah wal-Jamā'ah. And so, from the things that the Shaykh was discussing was the importance of the differentiation between, or the importance of distinguishing yourself as the Muslims, and distinguishing what you're upon, and distinguishing yourself from others that have opposed the haqq. And the Shaykh explains that if the individual is upon the way of the Salaf Salih, so he's upon the way of the Salaf Salih by way of his Aqidah, his manhaj, his adab, and by way of his obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then your love for that individual will be a love which is complete, a complete form of love. However, if this individual has fallen short in some regard, then of course your love for that individual will be less than that. And so your love for the individual in accordance with what's apparent in terms of their obedience to Allah and adherence to the haqq. And so the Shaykh went on to discuss the affair of Ahlul Bid'ah, the affair of the people of innovation, and that some of the people of innovation, when it comes to what they're upon, then no doubt we have hatred for them for what they're upon and their opposition to the haqq, or all of the people in innovation reality. And so we hate them for what they're upon in terms of opposing the truth and opposing the Sunnah and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it's not a love or hate rather that is absolute, for they have Islam with them as well, so we love them for that affair of Islam. And so the Shaykh goes on to mention, ومن هنا واجب النص للطلبة العلم أن يحذروا أهل البدع or يحذروا أهل البدع. And so here is upon us to advise as well the students of knowledge that they warn against and they have caution when it comes to the people of innovations. وأن يجتنبوا مجالسهم, and they stay away from their gatherings. وإن الألوان هم وإن الناو لهم الكلام فننالهم الكلام وبذلوه لهم من المعروف شيئا كثيرا فإن منهج السلف وأكيد السلف التي تتجلى في فهم الإسلام والإيمان وإحسان فهم صحيحا لا يجوز للإنسان أن يتاجر بها. And so the Shaykh goes on to mention that if the person comes across the scenario where they have speech with them, Ahlul Bid'ah, or they exert something of good in relation to them, then they suffice with the manhaj of the Salaf Salih and the Aqidah of the Salaf of this Ummah, in which this is the means, the correct means of a person understanding Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. An understanding of the correct understanding. And it's not permissible that the person tries to trade with that. He trades with the affair of deen. أو أن يحامل أو أن يجامل بها فعقيدتك الصحيحة ومنهجك الحق هما الرأس المالك. And so the reality is, the person should not find himself seeking to flatter or flatter to deceive when it comes to this affair of the fahm or adherence to the aqeedah of the Salaf al-Salih. For indeed, this is your Ra's al-Mal, referred to as the Ra's al-Mal. Your Ra's al-Mal is the capital that you have. And so, when we're referring to your capital, and anyone that's aware of business, you have a capital in terms of money and assets, you use that to trade with. You use that to trade with in terms of seeking to gain profit. However, if you're trading with your deen, because no doubt the deen is haqq, so this is the khair. If you're trading with your deen, then no good is going to come from it. You're not going to be able to trade it for something which is better than it. And so if you're trading your understanding of the fahm of Salaf al-Salih, which is deen and which is haqq, then what you're going to trade it with is impossible to trade it with something which is better than it. As Allah Ta'ala states, وَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا ضَلَالٌ, what comes of the truth except for falsehood. For indeed, if once you found the truth, that's what you have to cling to now. And so, this is your capital that you have. It's the affair of the aqeedah, the true creed, the correct creed. Now, and so, it's upon the individual to strive by way of that affair. And strive by way of a kalimatul haqq, speaking a word of truth. And strive by way of the qalam, if they have to write in relation to adherence to the truth, in defense of the truth. And defense of the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which no doubt is clear, and that the people of innovation are seeking to distort and seek generally to muddy the waters of it. And no doubt that these people of innovation are upon different forms of their innovations as well. Whether it be the people of innovations that have fallen into the innovations of old, or Ahlul Bid'ah and Mu'asara. You have Ahlul Bid'ah and Mu'asara, the people of innovation that are within our current time that we're living in now, and their contemporary innovations. لذا نقول في حق المبتدئ يحب بما عنده من الإسلام ويبغضه ويهجر ويقاطع مجلسه ومواصلته حتى يترك بدعته التي يدعو الناس إليها، وذلك بحسب المصلحة والضراء المفسدة. And so the Shaykh mentions in terms of summary. So due to that, we say that in relation to the mubtadi', in relation to the innovator, then we have love for them by way of that which they have for Islam. We have love for them by way of that which they have from Islam. However, we have hatred for them. We boycott them. We cut them. We cut off their gatherings. We don't attend their gatherings. And we do not establish communication with them until they leave off their innovations. These innovations that they're calling the people to. And this is due to the fact that it brings about a greater benefit and repels a harm, the great harm. وأن هذه الجماعات موجودة على الساحة تحمل البدعة متعددة، يجب أن يقال الحق ويبين ولا يكتم. لا يحملون بدعة واحدة وإنما يحملون بدعة متعددة فتنظيم السرية في دور المسلمة بالبدع والمجالس السرية دون العوام الناس بحجة المذاكرة وقراءة العلم هذه من بدعة. وهكذا الانصراف عن العلوم الشرعية التي تربط الشباب الأمة بخالقهم وبارئهم سبحانه وبسنة نبيهم عليه الصلاة والسلام. And so, this is what you find as well, is that you have many of these jama'at, many of these groups, which are present, present in terms of their da'wah, and they adhere to their different forms of innovation. It's a must that the person speaks a word of truth in relation to them. I warn against them. And that they clarify what they're upon by way of their innovations. And that they do not remain silent when it comes to that which they are upon from their opposition to the haqq. For indeed, these groups, they do not take on maybe one innovation, but they carry and they take on many different forms of different types of innovations. And so then you find that you have these organizations, the secret organizations within the lands of the Muslims, in which they are harboring innovations, and secret gatherings outside the general Muslims. And they have these gatherings, however, they say these gatherings are for revision of ilm and for reading of ilm. However, the reality is to harbor the innovations. And likewise, is the case that you find that these individuals seek to draw the people away from the knowledge of the Sharia. And draw the people away in relation to this ilm, this deen, which in reality is the means of the shabab of this ummah, the youth of this ummah, having an attachment to their Lord, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thus having an attachment to the Prophet, his Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and adhering to that, and being in aid of that, the support of that, and defense of that. All of this is from the bid'ah, when the person is directed away from that. All this is from the innovations. And these are from the innovations that you find from these jama'at, from these organizations, these groups. From these jama'at, as jama'at al-Ikhwan, and the first was Ikhwan al-Muslimin. Or from them is the tabligh, jama'at al-Tabligh, where they take the people away from the actual the teachers of Islam and the ilm of the Sharia. And these are the groups, and these are examples of groups that are found within, amongst the ummah. Now, and so the Shaykh goes to mention فالحذر الحذر من كل أصحاب البدعة خرجوا المنهج الحق إلى منهج الوافد اخترعه من يجهل الأمور والأدلة على ذلك قائمة أنهم يجهلون الأمور فالمؤسسون لها يجهلون المنهج الرسل وأتباعهم في الدعوة إلى الله فلذا كان الولاء والبراء قاعدة إيمانية فإن القادة مؤسسين لهذه الجماعة لم يطبقوا باب الولاء والبراء على الوجه المراد منهم شرعا. And so, as mentioned, it's upon the individual that he has caution, and that he's cautious against all of the different individuals upon innovations that have left the methodology of truth, and that are in reality afflicted by ignorance. I've been ignorant of the affairs. And reality is that those that have established these organizations and these groups, they are individuals that are jahil and they are ignorant in relation to the manhaj of the messengers and those that follow them when it comes to calling to Allah. And so we understand that this affair of al-Walāء wal-Barāʼ, the love and the hate for the sake of Allah, is a qaida imaniyya, is a qaida which our iman is based. And so what you find from those that establish these groups is that they do not implement this particular principle when it comes to al-Walāء wal-Barāʼ. They do not implement it in a manner that is intended in relation to the Sharia. وأضرب لكم مثالا بعض زعماء هذه الجماعة صرح في رسائله ومنشوراته بأن الرافضة إخوة للمسلمين وما خلاف بيننا وبينهم إلا في فروع المسائل خلاف بين المذاهب. And so what you find, and from the statements that these individuals make, from them, for example, the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, is that they would say that as for the Rafida, and the Rafida, the Shia, the Rafida, the individuals that curse the companions, they will say that as for the Rafida, then they are brothers to the Muslims. And the difference between us and them is only in the subsidiary affairs, the smaller affairs, the affairs that branch off. Just like you find the khilaf, difference of opinion between the madhahib, the schools of thought and fiqh. And so, what they attempt here is that they attempt to make a distinction between, or they attempt to make a similarity rather, between a difference of opinion when it comes to the usul and the difference of opinion in the furu, foundations, and when it comes to the secondary affairs. But the reality is, Ahlul Ilm, they mention, Barakallahu Feekum, that when it comes to ikhtilaf, when it comes to differing, there are two types of differing. There's two types of differing. The first type of differing is referred to as ikhtilaf al-tanawwu'. Ikhtilaf al-tanawwu'. The ikhtilaf al-tanawwu' is where you have differing in the affairs of furu', the affairs that branch off. And so ikhtilaf al-tanawwu', for example, we have difference of opinion when it comes to fiqh. Then this is something which is acceptable. You can differ with another individual if you feel like you have some evidence. Mathalan, for example, if a person says, I have differing of an opinion when it comes to where I put my hands after I come for ruku'. Mathalan. Now, so for example, he says, after I come out of ruku', where to put my hands? One person says I put the back of my chest, another person says I put the back down by my side. And then with that, they will say this is ikhtilaf al-tanawwu'. It's ikhtilaf al-tanawwu'. Then you have ikhtilaf al-tadad. The second type is ikhtilaf al-tadad. And so this form of ikhtilaf is where it's different of opinion when it comes to the usul. And this is impermissible. And you cannot differ with an individual when it comes to the foundations. The foundation of our aqidah. The foundation of our aqidah, the foundation of our belief in Allah, the foundation when it comes to our belief in the messengers, the foundation when it comes to our belief in the arkan of iman, for example, the foundations when it comes to our belief regarding the sahaba, the companions. These things are foundational things and aspects of deen in which we have to adhere to the truth. Although we have to adhere to the truth in all affairs. But there is no room for maneuver when it comes to these affairs. So when a person now states that the difference of opinion between us and them is one of furu', then they are trying to make this affair of what the Rawafid are upon, the Rafidah are upon. They are trying to enter that affair into the affair of ikhtilaf at-tanawwu'. So they're trying to say the difference of opinion between Ahlul Sunnah and the Shia and the Rafidah, this is a smaller difference. But the reality is it's a great difference, due to the fact that the position that they hold in many of their affairs, and as mentioned, from the greatest issue that they hold is in relation to what they say regarding the companions. The same companions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised, by way of his statement, as-Sābiqūna al-Awwalūn min al-Muḥājirin wal-Ansār wal-ladhīna tabi'ūhum bi-ihsān radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. The first and foremost from amongst the companions, from those that made hijrah to Mecca, from Mecca to Medina, and the Ansar, the inhabitants of Medina amongst the companions, and then those that follow them in good, Allah is pleased with them, and likewise they are pleased with him. Allah Ta'ala praises the individuals. So this is an affair of usul, an affair of our foundations. And so no, a person cannot come and say after that the difference between us is one of the smaller subsidiary affairs. And so the Shaykh goes on to mention in relation to that speech, وَهَذَا قِيَاسْ فَاسِد. So this comparison being made is one which is evil and corrupt in reality. فالرافضة معروفون بالسوء المعتقدهم وقبيح أفعالهم وسوء تصرفاتهم وبالإضافة إلى الشركيات ضموا إليها بغض أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا بدع النفر. And so, as for the Rafidah, the Shia, the Rafidah, then they're known. What they're upon is known. And they're known for their evil creed. And the evilness and ugliness of their actions. Along with that, their mannerisms that they come with. And that's in addition to the affair of the shirk that they're upon. And they include within that their hatred for the companions, except for a small number of them. And from those that they hate, from amongst those they hate the most, are on the best of the companions, Abu Bakr and Umar. And these are from the best of people that have placed their feet upon the earth after the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so when the one that established the Jama'at al-Ikhwan, the Ikhwan Muslimin, who goes by the name of Hassan al-Banna, when he's established, or when he says, rather, that the Rafidah, they are our brothers, and they've been our brothers for years, then, as the Shaykh mentioned, this is a khata' fahish. This is an evil mistake and a rejected affair. And it is a rejected speech. وهو تعبير يدل على جهل القائل. And it's an expression and a speech which is indicative of the jahl, the ignorance of the one making a statement. The ignorance of the one making a statement in regards to the manhaj of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And so, this is the affair of the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. Likewise, from the statements of the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, and the Shaykh is referring to some of these statements as to make clear that this affair of al-Walāʼ wal-Barāʼ is one thing. It's an asl. And how it can be opposed, and who these groups are that oppose it, and from the abrazahum, I know the group that is the most apparent upon the Sahar Muslimin, in the arena of the Muslims, and amongst the Muslimin, is the Ikhwan Muslimin, this group, the Ikhwan Muslimin. And so they will say this, they will seek to make an attachment between the general Muslim and the Rafidah, as mentioned. And you can see why that's wrong. But likewise as well, you can see here they go on to mention, for example, or as mentioned from Hassan al-Banna as well, إنه ليس بيننا وبين اليهود أداء ديني إنما بيننا وبينهم خلاف الاقتصاد. And so they will say, he says in relation to us and the Yahudi, the Muslims and the Jews, that there is no issue and there's no khilaf, there's no difference between us. The difference between us is not in relation to deen. So the reason why there's difference between the Muslims and the Yahud is not deen. Rather, the difference between us and them is an affair of economics. It's an affair of economics. This is what he's saying. Now, and so the Shaykh says in relation to the speech, وَهَذَا مُنْكَرْ مِنْ قَوْمٍ وَهَذَا مُنْكَرْ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ. And this is evil speech. This is evil speech. لأن الله عز وجل أعلن عداوة اليهود والمشركين للمؤمنين. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made it clear. Allah ta'ala has mentioned that the enmity that occurs from the Yahud and the Mushrikeen, the enmity and the hatred that the Mushrikeen have for the believers. By way of his statement, لَتَجِدَنَّ أَشَدَّ النَّاسِ عَدَاوَةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الْيَهُودَ وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا. And indeed you will find that the people that have the most and the most severe amount of enmity for those who believe are the Yahud, like the Jews, and then those that commit shirk with Allah, the mushrikun. And so this statement now, where they say the only difference between us and them is in relation to economics, is one which is ajib and gharib, is one which is strange and can never ever be harmonized with this ayah. They cannot coexist. This statement, which is of course batil and false, where they say that it's only difference between us and them is only economics. It's an economical difference. And then you have the statement of Allah Ta'ala, which is that they are the ashad, they have the most severe and the greatest of enmity towards the believers, is those from the Yahud and those that disbelieve, i.e. fall into shirk. Now, and so, no doubt, this is something which is in relation to bid'ah as well, innovations. What you find with these innovations is that one thing leads on to another. So one innovation will lead on to another and a greater innovation. And so they may fall into a harm with something, and then it becomes excessively worse. As we know, as-sayyi'atu tad'u ila ukhtiha, then evil deed calls to his companion, his sister, as mentioned in the narration, another evil deed. And so they become progressively worse. The example of that is the example of Dhu Khuwaysira. The example of Dhu Khuwaysira, that evil deed where he sought to challenge the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it came to the distribution of the war booty, and he said, "I'dil ya Muhammad, I be just, O Muhammad." From that evil deed of opposing the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that who came from him? The Khawarij. The Khawarij came from there after that. Where you find that some Ahlul Ilm from them, Shaykh al-Islam of our time, Shaykh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, raḥimahullāh, mentioned that they're not from amongst the Muslimin. The Khawarij are not regarded as being from amongst the Muslims. So it started off with that action and led to that which was greater. And ya'ni, ala qawl, they've left the fold of Islam by way of what they're upon. And so this is prevalent here, this is relevant here rather, when we look at the error that these people have when it comes to wal-Walāʼ wal-Barāʼ. So they may have error when it comes to wal-Walāʼ wal-Barāʼ, love and hate for the sake of Allah, and they say that there's no difference between us and the Shia. We're all Muslims. And so that what ends up happening after that, what it leads to is that when they say we want to unite the Muslims, and they want to unite the Muslims upon this principle that they refer to as ma'dhra wa ta'awun. Ma'dhra, that they excuse each other for that which they differ upon and come together and cooperate upon what they agree upon. Ma'dhra wa ta'awun. And so when it comes to this affair, barakallahu feekum, then what we say is that these individuals are falling into error. And they are exercising for that principle or for that false principle, they are using another false principle. That false principle being al-ghāya tabarru al-wasīla, that the ends justifies the means. And of course the ends does not justify the means. So they will say that we want the ends to be unity of the Muslims. Na'am. And so they say that the means we have to take is that we have to leave off the things that we disagree about. And just ignore those things and come together from what we agree upon to attain the end means, which is the unity of the Muslims. However, to attain the end, goal at the end. However, the means that are taken to do that cannot be justified, because now you're ignoring a person that speaks ill of the companions, for example. And then what it leads to after that, and is mentioned here, is that they will not say we just want unity to the Muslims after that. They don't stop there. Because bid'ah essentially is not just within its own self, one action within its own self. It can be comparable to a cancer essentially, where it continuously grows and gets worse. And so thereafter, what you see the claims will be is that we need to come together with Ahlul Kitab and the people of the book. So I have to have a unity of people of the book. Hence why they will have statements about the Yahud, that we have no problem with the Yahud. The ideal between us and the Yahud is only economical. Now, it's only in economics, only in regards to wealth. And they don't stop there. Then they will say, just bring everyone together. Because they are, as maybe you've heard the term before, they are our brothers in humanity. They are brothers in humanity. However, the reality is that when it comes to these affairs of loving and hating for the sake of Allah, that we associate people upon what is apparent from them when it comes to their obedience to Allah, when it comes to their adherence to the correct creed, when it comes to them adhering to the correct methodology, when it comes to adhering to correct mannerism, when it comes to them adhering to general obedience in their actions and ibadah. This is how we associate with the people. And this is the mi'yar, this is the yardstick, this is what we judge it upon. And so thereafter, Shaykh Zayd goes on to mention as well an example where it comes to the people that differ when it comes to the asma wa sifat. When it comes to the asma wa sifat. Where he will say, هذه النصوص نفوض أمرها إلى الله. So when it comes to these nusus, to these texts, then we will just leave the affair with Allah. We will leave the affair with Allah. They're saying, when it comes to our differing, when it comes to asma wa sifat, let's leave the affair of Allah. And so, the intent with this particular speech, essentially is going back to their main principle. Leave that which we disagree upon, and come together upon what we agree upon. So if we say we leave it to Allah, Now, then we understand that we disagree about an affair, just leave it to Allah. But let's not pay attention to that. Let's turn a blind eye to that. Let's bury our heads in the sand in relation to that differing. Leave it with Allah. And then we will still cooperate with one another. And so this is what he mentions when it comes to the affair of Asma wa Sifat. However, as we know, there are different groups and different jama'at that opposed the haqq when it came to the Asma of Allah wa Sifat. When it came to the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not possible when a person says we're going to leave this with Allah, only with Allah ta'ala, because no, it's upon us to take action now and have associations now. Now, and so the reality is that Allah ta'ala, He has revealed to us this affair of the Asma wa Sifat. وَاللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ خَاتِبُنَا بِمَا نَعْرِفُ وَنَفْهَمُ. And He addresses us in that by way of that which we know and we understand. وَأَمَرَنَا بِتَدَبُّرِ هَذَا القرآن من فاتحة إلى خاتمها من أجل أن نفهم المعنى. And we've been commanded as well with the affair of pondering over the Qur'an. From Fatiha, Surah Al-Fatiha, all the way to the end of it. In order for us to understand its meaning. And so this is in relation to this affair of the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. And likewise, when it comes to the affair of they came together upon it, had an agreement as well, established an agreement. And he mentions, أَلَا إِنَّ أَرْكَانَ بَيْعَتِنَا عَشْرًا فَاحْفَظُوهَا. And they established 10 particular principles of pillars when it came to their agreement. And commanded us and memorized them. كذلك إذن ما حقق الولاء والبراء الذي نتحدث عنه هنا الآن في هذا الدرس وفيما يتعلق بمؤاخاتهم ومصافاتهم للصوفية الضالة مضلة وقد أثنى عليهم مؤسس الجماعة الإخوان ثناء عاطرا على طريقة تسمى طريقة مرغنية. And so likewise as well, they have not established and made manifest this affair of al-Walāʼ wal-Barāʼ. So again we mentioned asl al-Deen. But along with that as well, is that they had inclinations and they adhering and praised these different groups from the Sufis and the different Sufi tariqas. And they would have great and grand praises for them. So it wasn't just an affair of al-Walāʼ wal-Barāʼ that they fell into issue with, but essentially they began with their inclination towards Sufiya. So they began with their inclination towards Sufiya and the different Sufi tariqas. Now, the different Sufi tariqas. And so, as a result of that, this is why they sought to implement this particular principle. They sought to implement this particular principle of coming together upon that which we agree upon and leaving off that which we disagree upon. Now, and so, Shaykh goes to mention, وكلما طلع صاحب البدعة في قرون الثلاث الأولى المفضلة تصدى له علماء ربانيون فردوا عليه بدعته وأشهروا أمره وحذروا الناس منه فقد بينوا بدعة القدرية نفاة القدر وبينوا بدعة الجهمية وبينوا بدعة المعتزلة وهكذا كلما نبتت بدعة شيطانية بينوها بينها أولي العلم الذين فهموا كتاب ربهم وسنة نبيهم وفهموا كتاب ربهم وسنة نبيهم صلى الله عليه وسلم فهما صحيحا ينير الطريق وتنشرح له الصدور ويبصر منه أراد الحق ليعيش في ظله ويموت عليه. And so thus the Shaykh goes on to mention that every time an innovation would occur and rear its head, when it came to the first three generations, the Salaf al-Salih, then the people of knowledge, the ulama al-Rabbaniyun, those that will cultivate the people, these people of knowledge would refute and reject what they're upon, or these innovations. And they would make clear and make it widespread, that affair, that innovation. It's by way of warning the people from it. And so these individuals from the ulama, they clarified the affair of the Qadriyah. These individuals that negated the Qadr of Allah Ta'ala, whilst clarifying the innovation of the Jahmiyyah and clarifying the innovation of the Mu'tazila. And so every time the shoots of an innovation would sprout, a new innovation would become apparent. The innovation shaitaniyah, innovation no doubt inspired by shaitan. The people of knowledge, those that possessed knowledge, would clarify it. Because indeed they were the people that understood the book of Allah, the book of their Lord and the Sunnah of their Prophet ﷺ. They understood it with a correct understanding. And they would illuminate, they would make clear the path for the believers. And then the hearts would incline and open towards that which they're calling to. And bring about clear insight for those that wanted the truth. I want the truth for themselves. So that they can live within and amongst that truth and die upon it. وهكذا لما جاءت البدع متعددة كبدعة الصوفية تصدى لهم العلماء ربانيون فالرد عليه ابن تيمية رحمه الله وهو الإمام الفض المجدد الناصح ورد عليهم تلميذه ابن القيم وغيرهما من علماء الشريعة وردوا عليهم بدعة صوفية. And so when the bid'ah, when the innovation of the Sufiya became apparent, and now when that innovation became apparent, the bid'ah of the Sufiya, then you found that the ulama of that time began to refute it and reject it. From amongst them was Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and he was an imam, a reviver, an advisor. And likewise as well, from those that refuted them was his student Ibn Qayyim. And other than them too, from the ulama, those that had knowledge of the Sharia, they would collectively refute the innovations of the Sufiya. وأخبروا بأن دين الله كامل وأن هؤلاء الصوفية أتوا بعمل محدث جديد. And that the deen of Allah, the religion of Allah is one which is kamil, is perfect. And that the Sufiya have come with an affair which is muhdath, which is new. ليس له علاقة بكتاب الله وسنة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. That was this affair that they're upon, that there's no relationship between that and the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. ولم يأتي ذكر التصوف بحال من الأحوال. And so you don't find within the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم the mentioning of the tasawwuf, the ways of the Sufiya, in any way, shape or form. And they have many different forms, to the extent that it's impossible to enumerate them all in reality. ولكن على العموم يحذر من جميع طريقة الغلاء وغير الغلاء. However, in general, they were warned against those that were excessive and those that weren't. وأخفاها الاجتماعات على الأفكار ليس لها أساس في القرآن الكريم ولا في كتب الحديث كالصحاح والسنن والمسانيد وكتب الأفكار، وإنما هي أفكار مبتدعة. And likewise, when it comes to these gatherings of dhikr, these gatherings of remembrance, which they refer to as, then it does not have a basis in Islam. There's no basis for it within the book of Allah. There's no basis for it within any of the books of hadith, whether it be the sihah, referring to the books of sahih. The books of sahih referring to the books where the author intended hadith sahih, or the books of sunnah, where these books are ordered upon the chapters and abwab of ahkam, or the books of masanid, where you have these books of hadith that are ordered in accordance with the companions that narrated them, or the books of adhkar, and the books referring to specifically adhkar and narration of adhkar. None of them mention these gatherings. Now, in reality, these adhkar, these gatherings of remembrance, are mubtadi'ah, gatherings which are of innovation. وفي هذه الأيام الماضية وجدت منشورا ينشره رجل صوفي مصري اسمه الحزب السيفي، يذكر عن علي بن أبي طالب، وليس لعلي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه كلمة واحدة منه، وهذا من باب الدجل على الناس وجلبهم إلى المنهج الصوفي في المنهج الصوفي الضال المضل. And so previously you'd find that you have these groups where they would ascribe this way and they'd be upon this way of Sufiya, and it'd be widespread. And for an example, the Shaykh mentioned was this group known as al-Hizb al-Sayfi, and that they would mention and they would ascribe themselves to Ali and Ibn Abi Talib. However, there was not one word from them that came from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. However, it was from their dajjal. Now you don't know what dajjal is. Deception, absolute, their kadhib ila ghaya, the absolute lies. To the deception, absolute lies to that extent. In order to draw the people away from the manhaj of the truth and drag them towards Sufiya, which is of no doubt, which is astray, and leads others astray. And this is an example of these groups, where they have mustalahat, they have terminologies which they use, and within these terminologies, no doubt, is Thalāthat, mere play. So they may mention Allahu, Allahu, and there's no mentioning within any of the texts that this was done within the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or anyone that followed him from amongst the companions or other than that. Now, and the Shaykh, he mentions this affair, he's mentioned this affair of the Ikhwan Muslimin. And so you have many groups within the time that we live in. And from the most well known amongst these groups in this time that we're living in now is the Ikhwan Muslimin, Jama'at al-Ikhwan, like Jama'at al-Tabligh, and the Jama'at al-Hizb al-Tahrir, wa Jama'at al-Hizb al-Islah, wa Jama'at al-Shabab Muḥammad, wa Jama'at al-Takfir wal-Hijra. As we have all these different jama'at, these different groups, describing to something. So you have the Jama'at al-Ikhwan, Jama'at al-Tabligh, Jama'at al-Hizb al-Tahrir, many of these different groups that have become widespread and known in this time that we're living in now. And so amongst that, the Shaykh mentions, فَالْحَذَرَ الْحَذَرَ, the person must beware that they must attain and must adhere to this affair of salvation and saving themselves from their evil. ولا يمكن أن تسلم إلا إذا بذلت جهدك في عناية بكتاب الله عز وجل تلاوة وتدبرا للمعنى مع قراءة الكتب والتفسير مؤتبرة كتفسير ابن كثير وتفسير ابن جرير وتفسير السعدي وتفسير البغوي، وهذه فيها كفاية وفيها غنية وعناية بالسنة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم باطلاع على كتبها. تبدأ بالكتب المختصرة ثم تتوسع حتى تقرأ الصحاح والسنن والمسانيد. And so, as mentioned, the person cannot in reality say or attain the safety except that they exert themselves and they strive in giving concern, real concern to the Book of Allah, whether it be or when it comes to its recitation and pondering upon the meanings when reciting it, along with reading the books of tafsir. And here the Shaykh mentions some examples of the books of tafsir. Say the book tafsir ibn Kathir, which is well known, or the tafsir of Ibn Jarir, which is sometimes also referred to as tafsir al-Tabari, or tafsir al-Saʿdī, the tafsir of Imam Saʿdī, or tafsir al-Baghawi. And within this is sufficient, when we read these books, is sufficient. And it means of a person really giving concern to that. And likewise, the person must give concern not only to the Book of Allah, but to the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they read the books, mukhtasara. So they read the shorter books of hadith, first and foremost. For example, what ikhwan? Arba'in Nawawiyah, for example. They give attention to the shorter books of hadith. Then read the books of Sihah, and the books of Sahihah, and the books of Sunan, and the books of Masanid. Now, and so this is the individual that is given importance to that. He's given importance to adhering to the Sunnah. And he holds on firm to that. Why? Because Allah Ta'ala has commanded us with that by way of his statement, وَاتَّسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And you hold on firm to the rope of Allah, all of you, and be not divided. وإذ كان الأمر كما علمت فإن أهل السنة والجماعة علماء وعلماء سلف أو أتباعهم هم الذين يطبقون هذه الآية. نعم. So when you come to know this affair, then you will know as well that Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the scholars from amongst the Salaf and those that followed them, they are the ones that implement this ayah. وَاتَّسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on firm to the rope of Allah, all of you will be not divided. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah are the ones that adhere to the ayah. And they are the ones that implement the ayah. And likewise, they are the ones that implement the ayah, which is at the end of Surah Al-Majadala, the ayah which is mentioned in this particular qa'idah. لا تجد قوما يؤمنوا بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من هاد الله ورسوله. And you will not find the people that believe in Allah and the last day having an association and love for those that oppose Allah and His Messenger. So they adhere to this ayah. This ayah of al-Walāء wal-Barāʼ, yani loving and hatred for the sake of Allah, association, disassociation for the sake of Allah. Wal-Muḥammad darajat mutanawwi'a. And when it comes to the muḥaddha, yani the opposition, then it's of different levels. Opposition is of different levels. فَمَنْ يُحَادَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولُهُ فَيَخْرُجْ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ. And so, you have those that oppose Allah and His Messenger to the extent that it causes them to leave Islam. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُحَادُ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولُهُ بِالْبِدْعَةِ. And from them you have those that oppose Allah and His Messenger by way of innovations. إِذْ إِنَّهَا تَعْتَبِرْ فِي الْمَرْتَبَةِ الثَّانِيَةِ بَعْدَ الشِّرْكِ وهي أكبر من كبائر الذنوب لأن صاحب الكبيرة كالشارب الخمر والزاني والسارق ونحوهم نعم يلم بها تارة ويتوب إلى الله عز وجل إذا ذكر ثم هو يعرف أن ارتكب معصية. لكن صاحب البدعة إذا تمكنت من قلبه تجده يجاهد في سبيل نشرها ويذب عنها تدينا وينشرها جادا ومجتهدا إذا ذب أهل السنة عن سنتهم وبينوا بطلان بدعة فإنه يذب ويغضب من أجل ذلك ويفعل أفعال التي قد يعجز عنها غيره. As I was mentioned, you have the first, in terms of opposition to Allah and His Messenger can be يعني kufr and shirkiyat, where a person opposes Allah and His Messenger as opposed to Allah and His Messenger, so to the extent that he's left the fold of Islam. Then you have those that oppose Allah and His Messenger to the extent that he's fallen into innovations. Where he's fallen into innovations. And so when it comes to this individual, then this is from the greatest of the major sins. This is amongst the greatest of the major sins. For example, after shirk. For the one that falls into the kabira, falls into the major sin, like drinking alcohol, or the one that steals, or the one that commits zina, commits fornication, or other than that, then it's possible that the person comes to know, or they have a regret. At times, the person regrets falling into that sin. And so as a result of that, the individual will make tawbah. The individual will turn back to Allah and repent to Allah for these major sins, if he remembers that which he's fallen into. Because he's well aware that he's fallen into ma'asiyah, he's fallen into disobedience. However, sahib al-bid'ah, the one that's fallen into bid'ah, if it has come attached within his heart, then you'll find that he will strive, he will fight in order to spread his innovation. And you find that he will defend it as a means of tadayyun, as a means of his deed. You find that he will defend it, consider it to be an action which is a rewardable action. And he will adhere to that affair of defending it, striving in its way. However, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are the individuals that defend the Sunnah. And they are the individuals that clarify the falsehood of their innovations. And so their defense and their anger is in relation to that, by way of the innovations that the people fall into, and their actions that the people fall into, and preventing the people from attaining and being upon the haqq. So essentially, khitaman, in summary, and to conclude, that indeed the Hizb Allah, the party of Allah, الَّذِينَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ, in which Allah Ta'ala is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. هم الذين أخذوا بكتاب الله عز وجل بفهم الصحيح وعناية تامة وبسنة النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم. They are the individuals that have taken and adhered to the correct understanding and adhered to that which is good and to the Sunnah of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم with the correct understanding. نعم ولا يمكن ولا يأتي لأحد الفهم الصحيح وعناية إلا إذا أخذ العلم عن أهله من علماء الشريعة الأهل العناية بالقرآن وتفسيره وبتفسيره. And so it's not possible نعم that the person gains that correct understanding except that they give importance to taking knowledge from its people, right? Seeking knowledge amongst the ulama. The ulama of the Sharia, that have given importance to the Qur'an and this tafsir, and the aqeedah of the Salaf al-Salih, and adhering and give importance and give due care to the Sunnah, adhering to the Sunnah of the Sayyid al-Mursalin, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. نعم إذا سلك الطلاب العلم هذا المسلك الذي ذكرت وأخذوا عن أشياخهم علماء ولو رحلوا بعد الرحلة فيعتبر كل جهد في هذا السبيل قليلا وحيا. And so, as mentioned, if the people of knowledge traverse upon that path, which has been mentioned, and they take from the people of knowledge and the shuyukh, the shaykh, the ulama, even if they have to travel, and it's a long journey, then they will find that this journey or this traversing will be considered, this juhd will be considered to be one which is of ease and something small for them to do. فالرحلة في طلب العلم من دعب الصالحين ومن خلق العلماء والسابقين ابتدأها أصحاب محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم إذ رحل بعض أفاضلهم ظهر بعض أفاضلهم من المدينة النبوية إلى أرض الشام وعلى بعير ويقطع مسافات ويواصل الليل والنهار من أجل أن يسمع حديثا واحدا. And so this affair of talab al-ilm, or traveling to seek knowledge, began and is a way of the salihin, and is a mannerism that you found from amongst the ulama that have preceded, beginning with the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where they traveled, and some of the most virtuous amongst them traveled from Medina to Asham, and they traveled upon on a horseback, on camelback to Sham, and they would travel long distances to the extent that they would be traveling throughout the night and the day, just for some of them to hear one hadith. Just hear one hadith. They may travel for this in such a long period of time. And this is what we find from amongst the affair of the companions. وهذه الرحلة قطع فيها صحابي جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه شهرا كاملا تقريبا ذهابا ومثله إيابا. من أجل أن يعلم حديثا واحدا وما أشرفه وما أجله لأنه من سنة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And so, as an example of that was the journey of Jabir ibn Abdullah, where he traveled for a period of 1 month, one way, and the same amount of time returning, in order for him to hear one hadith. In order for him to hear one hadith. فالرحلة فيها جهاد. الرحلة فيها جهاد في سبيل الله. وإهرازها وفهمها ونشرها من الجهاد في سبيل الله. بل هو أعظم من الجهاد في المعارك. لأن العالم ينشره للعلم يتسبب في حياة القلوب وفيه توجيه الجاهلين وفيه إنقاذ الحيارة إلى غير ذلك من المصالح التي يحرص طلاب العلم الصادقين في الطلب على المنهج الصحيح ومن الطريق الصحيح. والأهل العلم موفوق بعقيدتهم ومنهجهم غزارة علمهم. هذا هو الطريق. وفي هذا يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. And so, in relation to this affair of this traveling, seeking knowledge, that this is the journey which is jihad by itself. It's fi sabilillah. And it's the jihad for the one that is seeking that knowledge, seeking to understand it, seeking to spread it. This is all from jihad fi sabilillah. Rather as well, you can regard it as being greater than the jihad where the people fight on the battlefields. Why? Because the alim is spreading knowledge. And it's a means of giving light to the hearts and giving direction to those that are falling into ignorance and removing people from a state of confusion. This is for their overriding benefit. And this is the path of the Tulab al-Ilm that no doubt are seeking knowledge and seeking the knowledge of the correct manhaj and upon the correct way. And the reality is that you find that those that have been given the tawfiq in Aqidah and the correct creed, they will traverse upon that way of manhaj, and traverse upon that way of seeking knowledge. As the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions, whoever traverses upon our path seeking knowledge, and Allah Ta'ala make the path to Jannah easy for them. فما أغرى سير في طلب العلم والرحلة فيه سواء كانت رحلة قريبة أو كانت رحلة بعيدة. And so what is better than that particular path, that particular journey that a person makes, regardless of whether it be a journey which is a short distance, is close by, or far distance. And so this, no doubt, is an example of the manner in which we can really and truly adhere to the correct manhaj. So the Shaykh, essentially, in summary, he's mentioning, barakallahu feekum, that in order to adhere to the haqq, in order for a person to adhere to that truth, and stay away from these groups that are present now, that are spreading different forms of innovation, that he must give importance to the book and the Sunnah, must give importance to the Qur'an, must give importance to the tafsīr and understanding of the Qur'an, must give importance to the Sunnah and understanding the books of Sunnah. And this is done by way of seeking knowledge. And the best way to seek knowledge is at the feet of the scholars. And if you have to travel to do so, then the person must travel to do so. And so thus he's mentioned these examples of individuals that have travelled and have done these actions, which are no doubt actions of fadl, of virtue and good, and no doubt are beneficial. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. فجزاكم الله خيرا إخوة وبارك الله فيكم وصلى الله وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.